I gritted my teeth as the icy wind slashed across my face. Snow piled high along the empty road, my old truck barely making it through the thick drifts. The heater had given out an hour ago, and my knuckles were stiff from gripping the frozen steering wheel. Damn it, I muttered under my breath. The roads were deserted, and I should have been home hours ago. My 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was waiting for me, probably curled up under a pile of blankets to stay warm. The power at our tiny rental house was spotty at best, and I prayed the heat was still working. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a car buried halfway in the snowbank. Headlights flickering weakly, windshield wipers frozen in place. Someone was inside. Instinct kicked in. I slammed on the brakes, skidding slightly before stopping a few feet away. Shoving open my door, I grabbed my thick coat and waded through the knee-deep snow. I knocked on the window. "Hey, you all right in there?" Nothing. I pulled on the handle, it was locked. Peering inside, I saw a woman slumped over the steering wheel, her breath fogging up the glass. Panic shot through me. Without hesitation, I braced myself against the door and yanked with everything I had. The door creaked open, the bitter wind rushing inside. She stirred slightly, her face pale, lips a worrying shade of blue. "Ma'am? Hey, can you hear me?" I reached for her wrist, weak pulse. She was freezing to death. I had no time to think. Lifting her into my arms, I carried her to my truck. She barely weighed anything, and for a second, I wondered who she was and why she was out here alone. But those questions could wait. Right now, I had to save her. I kicked the door shut against the howling storm, my arms straining under the woman's weight. She was barely conscious, her head lolling against my shoulder as I carried her inside. Lily peeked up from the couch, eyes wide. "Daddy." "It's okay, sweetheart," I said, lowering the woman onto the couch. She needed help. Lily climbed off the blankets and approached, her tiny fingers brushing against the stranger's ice-cold hand. "She's so cold," she whispered. I grabbed the thickest blankets we had and wrapped them around the woman's frail body. Her breathing was shallow, her eyelids fluttering. I ran to the kitchen, heating up some water, anything to help warm her up. A soft moan made me spin around. Her eyes, deep green and glassy, blinked open. She stared at me, dazed, confused. "Where?" Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "You're safe," I assured her. "I found you in the storm. You were freezing." Her gaze darted around the small, shabby living room, patched up furniture, the rattling old heater in the corner. Then, something flickered in her eyes, something sharp. But before I could ask who she was, she closed her eyes again, slipping back into unconsciousness. And for some reason, I had the unsettling feeling that this woman was more than just a stranded traveler. The storm raged outside, rattling the windows as I sat across from the unconscious woman, waiting for her to wake up again. I had draped my best blanket over her, but my mind kept racing. Who was she? Her clothes, though covered in frost, were expensive, her boots looked custom-made, and her nails were manicured. She wasn't just some lost traveler. But what was she doing alone on a back road in the middle of a blizzard? Lily sat beside me, holding her stuffed rabbit close. "Daddy, is she gonna be okay?" I ran a hand through my messy hair. "I hope so, sweetheart." The woman stirred again, her lips parting with a soft breath before her eyelids flickered open. For a moment, she stared at the ceiling, confused. Then her eyes landed on me, sharp and alert, like she had just remembered something important. "Where am I?" Her voice was hoarse but strong. "My house," I answered. "You were trapped in the snowstorm. I pulled you out before you froze to death." Her body stiffened. She pulled the blanket tighter around her, eyes darting to Lily. "Who are you?" "I should be asking you that," I said, crossing my arms. "You were half dead when I found you. No ID, no phone. Just you and a fancy car buried under snow. What were you doing out there?" She hesitated. I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear, maybe? But she masked it quickly. "My car slid off the road," she said flatly. "That's all." I didn't buy it for a second, but I let it go for now. She sipped the hot tea I had given her, her hands still trembling slightly. Do you have a name? I asked. She hesitated again, then sighed. Sophia. Just Sophia. No last name. No explanation. All right, Sophia, I said, leaning back against the chair. I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, but you're safe here for now. The storm's bad, so you'll have to stay put until the road's clear. Her fingers tightened around the mug. She didn't thank me. Didn't even look relieved. Just tense. Lily, always the curious one, scooted closer. Are you a princess? Sophia blinked. What? Your clothes are so pretty, Lily said. You look like the people in movies Daddy watches. I chuckled. Lily, not everyone in nice clothes is a princess. Sophia gave a weak smile. No, I'm not a princess. But something in her eyes told me she wasn't exactly lying either. By morning, the snowstorm had slowed, but outside, the world was buried under at least 3 feet of snow. No way was anyone driving out of here anytime soon. I pulled on my jacket and stepped outside to shovel, but as soon as I reached the road, something caught my eye. Tire tracks. But not mine. Someone else had been here, and that someone had stopped right in front of my house. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Who the hell was looking for Sophia? When I walked back inside, I saw Sophia standing near the window, peering out nervously. You expecting someone? I asked. She jerked slightly, turning toward me. No. Why? I debated whether to tell her about the tire tracks, but decided against it. No reason. Lily tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, I'm hungry. Right. Food. I turned toward the kitchen, but I caught Sophia watching me, her brows furrowed slightly, like she was trying to figure something out about me. Single dad? She asked, nodding toward Lily. Yeah, I said shortly. Her mother's? Not around. Sophia's lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something, but she didn't push. I appreciated that. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was right outside my door. And somehow, Sophia was right in the middle of it. The morning sun did little to cut through the cold, and as I shoveled a path through the snow, I kept looking over my shoulder. Someone had been here. Someone looking for her. Sophia stayed inside, quiet, watchful. Every time I caught her glancing out the window, she looked pale, like she was expecting something, or someone, to come knocking. I didn't like it. Not one bit. By noon, Lily was playing with her stuffed rabbit on the floor, oblivious to the growing tension between me and the stranger in my house. Then, a sound cut through the silence. A car. I grabbed the nearest thing that could serve as a weapon, a rusted wrench from my toolbox, and stood by the window. A black SUV rolled up, its tires crunching over the snow, coming to a stop just outside my house. Sophia saw it too, her face drained of all color. They found me, she whispered. I turned to her, my grip tightening on the wrench. Who found you? She swallowed hard. We need to hide. The SUV door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall, broad shoulders, dressed in a long black coat, with gloves that looked far too clean for someone just passing through. His gaze swept over my house, calculating. He knocked. Sophia tensed beside me. I could see her hands trembling, her entire body coiled like a trapped animal. Don't open it, she breathed. Lily looked up, confused. Daddy? Who's that? I bent down to her level. Sweetheart, go to your room and stay there, okay? She pouted but nodded, taking her stuffed rabbit with her. Another knock. Louder. I turned back to Sophia. Tell me who he is. Now. She swallowed hard. If you open that door, we're both dead. The knock came again. I made my decision. Stepping forward, I pulled the curtain aside just enough to get a better look. The man outside was impatient, shifting slightly, checking something in his pocket, his phone, maybe? Mr. Miller, he called out. I stiffened. He knew my name. My gut twisted. Whoever this guy was, he wasn't just passing through. He was here for Sophia. And now he knew about me. Mr. Miller, he said again. We just want to talk. I turned to Sophia, who was staring at me like she already knew what I was thinking. I wasn't opening that door. I stepped to the side and spoke through the door. Don't know who you are, but I'm not interested in talking. The man chuckled. I think you are. You have something that belongs to me. I glanced at Sophia. She shook her head, eyes wide. Don't know what you're talking about, I said. Silence. Then, you're making a mistake, Mr. Miller. The SUV engine roared back to life. A moment later, it backed out of my driveway and disappeared down the snow-covered road. I exhaled slowly. Sophia let out a shaky breath. That won't be the last time they come. I set my jaw. Then you'd better start talking. Sophia looked at me like she was about to confess something that would change everything. She was. My name isn't just Sophia, she said quietly. It's Sophia Caldwell. I frowned. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but then it hit me. Caldwell. As in Caldwell Industries. The billion-dollar empire. My mouth went dry. You're kidding? She shook her head. I wish I was. I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. What the hell is a billionaire doing stranded in a snowstorm? Running, she admitted. From who? She hesitated. Then, my family, and the people they hired to bring me back. I stared at her, my heart pounding. You're telling me you're a billionaire, and you're running from your own family? Sophia's jaw tightened. I'd rather be dead than go back to them. That sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't know much about the Caldwells, but I knew one thing. They weren't just rich. They were powerful. If she was running, there was a damn good reason. I exhaled. You're putting me and my daughter in danger. Her eyes softened. I never meant to. I didn't expect anyone to help me. But you did. I wanted to be angry, but something in her voice, something raw, desperate, made it hard to push her away. Still, I had a kid to think about. And I wasn't about to let some billionaire's family turn my home into a war zone. We need a plan, I muttered. Sophia and I spent the rest of the day talking in hushed voices, piecing together what we could. Her family was looking for her. They had money, power, and influence. I had, well, an old truck and a rusted wrench. Not exactly an even playing field. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house had me on edge. Every distant car light made my stomach churn. By morning, I knew one thing for sure. We couldn't stay here. Not if we wanted to live. At dawn, I packed a bag. Some clothes, food, anything we could carry. Sophia hesitated. Are you sure? Either we leave, or they come back, I said. And I don't plan on being here when they do. She swallowed hard. Okay. Lily, still half asleep, yawned as I scooped her up in my arms. Where are we going, daddies? Somewhere safe, sweetheart. I glanced at Sophia. You better hope you're worth the trouble. She met my eyes. I am. Somehow I believed her. I drove. Fast. The old truck groaned under the strain, tires slipping over patches of ice, but I didn't slow down. The farther we got from that house, the safer we were. Sophia sat beside me, hunched in her seat, hood pulled up to cover her face. In the back, Lily was curled up under a blanket, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly. The roads were empty, covered in a thick layer of snow, the storm finally easing up. But the fear in my gut told me we weren't far enough. Where are we going? Sophia asked. I clenched my jaw. Someplace they won't look for you. You don't even know where they are looking. I shot her glance. I know where they will. And that's exactly where we won't be. She swallowed hard and looked away. For the first time, I saw something in her expression that I hadn't before. Guilt. We stopped at a rundown roadside motel 3 towns over. It was the kind of place no one asked questions as long as you paid cash. I carried Lily inside, settling her into the bed. She barely stirred. Poor kid was exhausted. Sophia stood near the window, peeking through the curtains like she expected someone to be standing outside. I shut the door and turned to her. You need to tell me everything. Now? She hesitated. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a phone. Not just any phone. A burner. My stomach sank. You've had that this whole time? She nodded. I didn't want to use it unless I had to. Who the hell are you calling? The only person I trust, she whispered. She dialed a number, her fingers shaking. The call connected. Jonah, she breathed. A male voice answered on the other end. Sophia? Jesus, where the hell are you? Your father is trying to kill me, she interrupted. The line went dead silent. Then, where are you? I didn't like this. Not one bit. Whoever Jonah was, he wasn't the cavalry. And something told me this call just made everything worse. We barely had time to react before the first car rolled up outside the motel. My stomach dropped. Black SUVs. Same as before. Sophia cursed under her breath. They tracked the call. I yanked the motel curtain shut and grabbed the only weapon I had, an old hunting knife from my truck. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Sophia backed away, her breath coming in sharp, uneven bursts. Lily was still asleep. I turned to Sophia. If this goes bad, you take Lily and run. Understand? She looked at me, something raw in her expression. And leave you? I clenched my jaw. Don't argue. If I tell you to run, you run. She swallowed hard and nodded. A knock came at the door. Miss Caldwell, a deep voice called. Come out now and no one gets hurt. My grip tightened on the knife. They were lying. Someone was definitely getting hurt tonight. Sophia clutched my arm, her eyes wide. We can't win this. We don't have to, I whispered. We just have to get out alive. Footsteps outside.
Too many of them.
I exhaled slowly, thinking. I had one advantage. They didn't know how many people were in here. That meant hesitation. I turned to Sophia. Go out the bathroom window with Lily.
Now?
She hesitated.
What about you?
I'll buy you time. I saw the fear in her eyes. The part of her that wanted to argue. But in the end, she nodded. I turned to Lily, kissing the top of her head. Be brave, sweetheart. She rubbed her tired eyes and whispered, Okay, Daddy. Then they were gone. I tightened my grip on the knife. The door exploded inward. The first guy through barely had time to react before I slammed into him, driving the knife deep into his shoulder. He howled, staggering back. I grabbed his gun before it hit the floor. 2 more men rushed in. I fired.
Once. Twice.
The first guy dropped. The second one dove for cover. I didn't wait around. Ducking out the back, I ran.
Snow.
Darkness. Silence. Then,
Gunfire. Shouts.
I sprinted toward the trees, heart pounding. Had they made it out? Were they safe? I didn't stop running. I couldn't. Somehow, I found them. Sophia was crouched behind a fallen tree, Lily clutched in her arms, both of them shivering. Her eyes widened when she saw me. You're alive. Not dead yet, I panted. She threw herself at me, arms wrapping around my neck, trembling. I thought. Not a chance, I murmured. Then, softly, we need to keep moving. She pulled away, nodding. I took Lily in my arms. Let's go. We disappeared into the forest. But I knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. The forest was pitch black, the cold biting into my skin as I carried Lily through the thick snow. Sophia trudged beside me, breathless but determined. We didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Behind us, I could hear them. Footsteps, voices, men sweeping through the woods. They were hunting us. I gritted my teeth. I wasn't going to let them win. Where are we going? Sophia whispered. Anywhere but here, I muttered. We kept moving. A single gunshot cracked through the air. Sophia flinched. Lily whimpered against my shoulder. They were getting closer. Too close. We made it to an abandoned cabin deep in the woods. It wasn't much, just 4 walls and a rotting roof, but it would have to do. I set Lily down, checking her over. You okay, babies? She nodded, though her little hands were trembling. Sophia paced, her hands running through her tangled hair. We can't stay here. They're going to find us. I exhaled sharply. Then we make sure they regret it. She looked at me, startled. You're not serious. I'm dead serious, I said. I've been running my whole life, Sophia. I'm done running. She swallowed hard, nodding. Then what's the plan? I gripped the stolen gun tighter. Fight back. It didn't take long. The first man stepped into the clearing outside the cabin. Then another. And another. 5 in total.
Armed.
Ready. I pressed my finger to my lips, signaling Sophia to stay quiet. She nodded, holding Lily close. Then I stepped onto the porch. That's far enough, I called. One of the men, tall, slick suit, clearly the one in charge, smirked. Mr. Miller, you're making this difficult. I raised the gun. I make a lot of things difficult. He chuckled. You're outnumbered. Outgunned. Be smart about this. I smirked. Smart would be you turning around before I drop every single one of you in the snow. Silence. Then he sighed.
Fine.
You want to do this the hard way? He raised his hand. The others moved in. I fired the first shot. The bullet hit one of them square in the chest. He dropped like a stone. The others scattered. Gunfire erupted, shattering the cold silence of the forest. I dove behind cover, heart pounding. Bullets ripped through the wooden cabin walls, splinters flying everywhere. I stole a glance at Sophia. She was shielding Lily, pressing herself against the floor. I gritted my teeth. This had to end.
Now.
One by one they went down. I took a shot to the shoulder. Pain flared through me, hot and sharp, but I didn't stop. By the time the dust settled, only one man was left standing. The leader. He stepped forward, hands raised. All right. You win. I kept the gun trained on him. Give me one reason not to finish this. He chuckled. Because you're not a killer, Mr. Miller. I cocked the gun. Try me. His smirk faltered. Then from behind me, a gunshot. Sophia stood at the doorway, hands trembling around a smoking pistol. The man staggered, looked at her in disbelief. Then he dropped. It was over. The forest was silent again. I turned to Sophia, still in shock. You okay? She swallowed hard. I had to. I nodded.
Yeah.
You did. We didn't speak for a moment. Just breathing.
Processing.
Then, blue and red lights flashed through the trees.
Police.
I exhaled sharply.
About damn time.
The police took our statements. The bodies were removed. Sophia sat in the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket, staring blankly ahead. I stood beside her. So what now? I asked.
She turned to me.
And then she said something that shook me to my core. I'm free. Her voice cracked. For the first time in my life. I'm free. I exhaled slowly.
Yeah.
You are. Then she looked at me and smiled. Days passed. The storm cleared. The world moved on. I was back at my house, fixing the broken door when I heard a car pull up. I turned. Sophia stepped out. Only this time, she wasn't just Sophia. She was Sophia Caldwell, billionaire,
Heiress.
a woman who had just inherited an empire. And yet, she was standing in my driveway. She walked up looking nervous.
Hey.
I wiped my hands on my jeans.
Hey.
She bit her lip. Then, I want to help you, Jack. I frowned. Help me how? She took a breath. By changing your life. Sophia had made her decision. She was done running. Instead, she took control of her father's company.
Cleaned house.
Got rid of every corrupt executive that had turned a blind eye to the horrors her father had orchestrated. And then she came back.
To me.
I owe you everything, she told me. You saved my life.
Protected me.
And now, I want to do the same for you and Lily. I stared at her. Sophia, you don't owe me anything. She smiled. That's why I want to do it. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a set of keys. To a house. A real home.
For me.
For Lily.
For us.
I should have said no. Should have told her I didn't need her money. Didn't need charity. But when I looked at Lily and saw the happiness in her eyes, I knew the truth. This wasn't charity. This was family. Sophia stayed. Not because she had to.
But because she wanted to.
And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. And that was the greatest gift of all.